Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How you doing there, Steve? You ready to talk 3D and maybe its replacement today?
I am. Hello everyone. I'm in 2D at the moment and low resolution, but that might all change in the future.
Can you imagine us beaming out in 4K or 8K or all these mythical formats that'll come at some later point?
I prefer myself pixelated personally, but we'll see what happens in the future.
Absolutely. So we've banged on a bit about 3D before. You know, I can safely say that neither one of us has any great love for the medium. And looking at the way things have been going recently, and we've probably already touched on this, the sales for 3D tickets are going down. And aside from the fact that maybe it's a lot of bad movies have been coming out as well that have not helped things, you're finding too now is that cinemas are putting a lot more 2D sessions on for 3D films, and they're finding that a lot more people are just going to that because they don't want to pay the surcharge. And the general sort of real reason is that it doesn't add anything to the experience, despite what the Hollywood machine is trying to tell you.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, look, let's face it, 3D in 60 years, and we've covered this before, in 60 years, they're still trying to pretend 3D is a new technology and it's exciting. It's not, and it hasn't worked very well, principally because when you go to 3D, you need the glasses, and what that does is to your normal resolution, which you're used to at a film, it actually dims it and causes eye strain. And that's one of the things that 4K will fix. So I think maybe we better talk a bit about what 4K is for those who don't know. But I actually, Ben, while putting together my blog, came to the realisation that 4K will probably save 3D, probably make it feasible. Maybe not in your average movie, but certainly as an immersive technology for games and interactive scenarios.
But the suggestion is that 4K is such high quality that it will feel 3D anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, basically, for those that don't know, film is currently rated as 2K in terms of resolution, and I think that's only a notional idea because little specks of silver on a piece of paper are, impossible to calculate in the same way that you can with pixels. But 4K would be that same resolution effectively squared. So it's double, or it's actually 4 times. It's not double, it's 4 times the resolution.
Well, I was just reading that it was it can go up to 4,000 by 3,000 pixels, or put another way, it would be the equivalent of an 8 to 12 megapixel shot, like a photo. Or another way, it's probably the easiest way to think, and I guess that's what you were suggesting, it's sort of like putting 4 high-def 1080p frames into a single frame, which is really incredible when you think about it.
Well, 4 HD frames into one is a hell of a lot of definition in anyone's language. I mean, we think only back 10 years ago when we first saw the first high-definition televisions, and the content looked too real almost then. Can you imagine having 4 times the actual resolution? It's going to be great for documentary and science factual programming because you're actually going to be able to see things. Cameras will capture things that we can't see today. I mean, we get amazing images now through the cinema with some great films, great sequences filmed by really good cinematographers, and we're going to see exactly the same sort of thing now once again. I think, to be honest, it's going to be mind-blowing. No. Although we are all going to have to update our home entertainment systems.
Which I'm sure, from a commercial point of view, they're all going to be loving that.
I think, is that not why they're doing it?
Absolutely. I'm just wondering, before we discuss the implications, say, for cinema itself, I'm just wondering if going to that resolution for cinema is a way of differentiating cinema from, say, watching it at home. There's an issue at the moment that really the cinema is not providing at the moment anything that's really that much better. In some cases, it's inferior to what you can watch at home. So in a lot of cinemas. So
are you talking about storylines, or are you talking about visual quality?
I understand the cynicism there. That's a whole other topic. But if we're talking like the technical aspects of it, if at home you can watch something that's better quality than what you'd pay for almost 2 or 3 times the price in the cinema, why are you going to go to the cinema? And I think this is the reason why cinema ticket sales are falling as much as they have been.
Well, it's an interesting argument. I really don't know there, Ben. If you think about it, when digital first came out, people said that you never get the lovely, beautiful, crisp images of film, 35mm film as you do in the cinema, and that gentle flickering, of a 2K image is what cinema's all about. It's chemical, it's real, it's organic. But today, apparently, that's just no good, And I think you're right. I think in the first move to 4K was to create that separation, to improve that quality. But I think all these technologies now are moving hand in hand as part of digital convergence. So if the manufacturers are going to produce a 4K screen for you to view this stuff on at home, I think they'll move together. And now technology getting cheaper and more powerful all the time, I really think it's going to be a struggle for those professional production companies to really be that step ahead.
Well, actually, as an interesting side note, Peter Jackson's filming The Hobbit at the moment, and he's filming it using a special camera system, and he's recording it. I'm not sure if it's 4K, but the idea is that it's sort of going to have the type of effect. It's a window into the effect that we might potentially see in the future, and he's filming it at 48 frames per second. Now, apparently, he showed this at a convention of some sorts in America, and it was completely mixed reviews. People just couldn't handle the level of detail that was in the picture. It's like they were saying, where's the flicker? Where's the blur? And in the end, it seemed like it was just that they weren't used to it. Peter Jackson himself apparently took to his blog, and he said later that as the presentation went along, he found that the audience was actually getting used to it.
Yeah, well, look, it's going to be ultra sharp images, and you're going to see them in a detail you've never seen them before. And as I said before, it'd be probably like when we first started looking at high definition television shows, and they didn't look right. They didn't look like we were used to. Now that's what we expect them to look like, and they just look really clear. But you are going to need bigger screens. You can't do ultra high definition on a screen and still sit where you're sitting today. So to get the benefit of it, you need a bigger screen. You need to be able to sit further back. So we're all going to have to make extensions to our houses or something.
Well, or just have that.
To watch the television in the kitchen.
I'll be aching for my own private cinema room that I always wanted. So yeah, I guess sport would be great for this as well, wouldn't it?
Well, I think sport will benefit from it more than 3D, and this gets back to the whole 3D thing. 3D's dead as a passive medium to sit there. I think although 4K might be good enough to resuscitate 3D, but the reality is as a passive medium, what's the point of 3D? You want a good storyline, you want really clear, crisp pictures, and let's face it, the really good action films are just as good in 2D because of the way they're shot and cut as they are in 3.
But the way that the filmmakers shoot traditional films anyway, they build in that sort of extra dimension into the frame anyway. And from the sounds of it, 3D only really is supposed to add 2 extra elements to make it 3D. And apparently on one of them, it doesn't even do it properly. So you're not actually you're not really getting it. And on top of that, there's reports it leads to, it might give you headaches. But the biggest, but the biggest issue, of course, is just that it dims the picture too much. A lot of filmmakers, for example, Christopher Nolan's mentioned it. Douglas Trumbull's mentioned it as well. You know, they've tried so hard for so long to raise the brightness level of pictures, and then as soon as they get to that point where it's at its maximum, they bring in 3D and they kill the light that comes out of the projector.
Well, that's absolutely right. 4K will get around that, and that's why I think 4K as ubiquitous technology will become what you'd expect, and that is important for gaming, because for gaming it'll allow proper 3D gaming, which now with the frame rates they run at anyway, but they can't get the brightness. You get a lot of fatigue if you try 3D gaming, which is why it isn't very popular. But the technology will be there. The screens at the consumer end to use this will be there as well. So I think, your alternate realities where we use avatars to walk around Second Life and things will suddenly start to succeed.
Yeah,
in fact, you won't need an avatar. You'll probably be able to have a photo of yourself that'd be animated to walk around.
Absolutely. Just as we slowly sort of wrap this up, I'm thinking that with this type of technology, 4K, then probably 8K and whatever else comes after that, as the technology improves, I believe, like we were talking briefly before we started here, that this idea of digital convergence, the idea that it doesn't matter where you're seeing it anymore, which, Apple's kind of doing it with all of their devices. It doesn't matter which device you pick up. You're probably going to see that happening with this sort of thing as well. And it might prove to be a challenge for, say, a Hollywood industry, trying to figure out a way to make itself exclusive in an environment where this type of technology kind of sort of brings it all together.
Well, it's a really good question. I think Hollywood will always be Hollywood. I mean, they're the ones with the money to pay someone $20 million to appear in a film. They're the ones that can have a helicopter in the air for hours to shoot these amazing, ultra definition shots. I think that will always be the barrier. And technologically, they'll always have better, post-production, because they'll be able to afford, faster computers for better processing. And you have to remember that with 4K, it's all shot in a raw color format and then recolored by software later to get the desired effects. So I think if you look at that, that's where Hollywood will still have its separation. Will we run around with, our home cameras being 4K or our iPhones having 4K cameras? I doubt it. But, like already in the past, we've always been used to having lower resolution, consumer cameras. But, in terms of what you would expect professionally for sport or on television or in the movies, I think, 4K will be the standard within 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's something we can all look forward to. So it looks like we're out of time, but thanks again, Steve, for the chat. Always good, and we'll be looking forward for our 4K screens at some point in the future. and absolutely throwing away those ridiculous 3D glasses that we always have to wear.
Amen to that. Who looks good in those glasses? Not me.
Absolutely. Maybe Jack Nicholson, but that's another story. All right, so don't forget our website's at www.fistchat.com. You can get all our links there, and we'll have some blogs on the topic of 4K this week. That's it for this week's episode, so we'll catch you next week.